Hi, this is Cheryl of Majestic Wire Artworks, and today in this tutorial I am going to show you how to make the diagonally cubed stemmed earring. This design is actually can lend itself to more than just cubed earrings, although I just love the way it shows off these diagonally cubed earrings. It's hard to find at times, the beads, so you'll have to do a search. I actually found these on eBay. They're not always available. I think sometimes you can find them on Etsy. I don't know if you have a store locally where you can purchase them as well, but I don't have a store locally for me, so I always buy online. And just to show you that this design can also be used to make with hearts, and you could use ovals too. And these are larger hearts. They're this is blue aventurine, which is actually purple. These are 12 millimeter heart beads, so they look nice. So because they're so big, I made the stem longer. These ones are the coiling is 1.25 inches, whereas my traditional ones are 1 inch. And so you can have the choice of varying the size of your stem as well. And so let's get going. Now I have your supply list in the description of the video. So if you're watching via, and you would be watching via Patreon, because this will be an exclusive tutorial, you can still click on the YouTube button on the bottom part of the tutorial, and then you'll see my YouTube channel. And you can only get at these videos through Patreon. If you don't have your Patreon membership paid for these, you won't. They don't show up on the listings, so you can't access them via just regular. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, not through Patreon, you won't find this tutorial there. So just a tidbit of info there. So to start with, we have to make the bottom. So we're going to make a giant, basically a giant head pin. And we're going to make a tiny coil at the bottom. So you're going to grab your chain nose pliers and your 20 gauge wire, which this is 12 inches. And I'll have metric in the description when I write down your measurements for you. So you try and make the tiniest curve you can and crimp it in to get the bead or bud of your spiral. And it's slipping away from me today. Being difficult. I'm going to bend the wire to grip it better. I could straighten it later. Okay. There we go. Now, because I can grip it. Crimp it in even more. Okay, now I'm going to start bending it. Crimp it down. Okay. So this is what I usually do when I'm making a head pin with a tiny coil, is I've got it so that the top wire is parallel to the center, and then I take it and I bend it back like that. So I'm pretty consistent with that for the head pins. And now I'm going to straighten this out gently, just like this. My thumb bending a bit. Okay, and then we're going to straighten this out, because this is where the bead and the coil is going to sit, and we want that to be straight. And this is also work hardening it. So we don't want to go much more than 1.25 inches for that. Okay, the next step is to make your coil, and we're going to do it at this end. No, first thing we got to do is put the bead on. Sorry. And my bead's hiding there. So I'm using a blue bead today. There. Okay, now we want to make the coil on this end because we can do a neater job when we have a short end to work with, because coils slide really easy. So now you're going to take your, and I asked you to only cut one length of 26 gauge. And that's because it saves us some working wire. Now I've just made a tutorial that shows just how to do the coils, so I won't spend too much time showing that. But so you start off like this, and then you start coiling. And the beginning of your coil will probably not be as neat as you'd like it to be, and that's typical normal. So when you wrap your spiral, or coil rather, you try not to get spaces that big. You want it closer together, otherwise you can end up with not a neat looking coil. And then compress it on the front, come on, the front and the back. See the back? I compressed it in the front, but it didn't compress in the back. So you got to do the front and the back. Okay, so we want to make this coil 1 inch in length, and we're going to do it a little bit longer so that we can unwrap the messy part, which is the beginning. So I compress about every 6 to 10 wraps, depending on how neat it looked. Like if sometimes you can wrap it and it looks almost perfect right on the 20 gauge wire. See, that's not perfect, so I'm going to stop at 6. Turn around, compress the back. Okay, and I am going to continue finishing this, and I'm going to pause it. And what we've done so far, I'd like you to do on both. So I want you to have about 1.25 inches of coiling, and we will trim it down to 1 inch later. So I want you to take both of your 20 gauge wires, put on your little coil, put on your bead, and at this end, I want you to do 1.25 inch coil. And I will be back with that done. See you soon. Okay, I'm back, and I've got both coils done. And so what I want you to do next is cut off as close as you can your end wires. I'm just going to do one for now. And now we're going to crimp this in, and I'm going to show you how I do that. I just twist the same way that the wire's going, the coil's going, with the pliers. And sometimes that's hard to do because it slips on you. Mine work pretty well. No sticky pokes that fast. Doesn't always work that fast. Okay. And now, we want to unwind some of this because we only want 1 inch. Okay, so I'm unwinding that much. So it was about this much. So we want it to be 1 inch. Remeasure it. Shouldn't have snipped it off this fast. Getting ahead of myself. Okay, so I need to unravel about 3 more wraps. Okay, and that should do it. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to snip that off as close as I can with the flush cutters. And I'm going to flip it around because I would like to work with my right hand. And I'm going to twist this, and sometimes it works itself away from the coil. Okay, good. And then slide the coil into place like that. Okay, and we're gonna gently, very gently. And now if you have nylon pliers and you wish to use them, I don't buy nylon pliers, I go through them too quickly. I use other techniques. Okay. Now it's going to bend on you when the future stuff we do, so we don't have to be too picky at this point. Okay, so that looks pretty. Now let's do the same to the other one. And when I snipped this one off to take over the other one, I did it right flush. I haven't crimped it in yet. And remember, if you're not happy with your coil, you can always take it off and start again. Now I'm going to measure it. Whoops. I don't think I have as much uncoiling to do on this one. Probably about 2 wraps. Yeah, I think I did some already. Okay. Oh, I left a long tail on there. It's okay. I'll crimp it in. Focus. There we go. Push it down. Crimp it in. Now, because I didn't do it as flush, it's just giving me a little bit more difficulty, but there we go, I think. Okay, looks good. Feels good. Okay, I'm going to slide that coil down in place. Okay, so you should have 2 earrings that look like this so far. Okay, so the next step, and we might as well do it with both. Got to make sure the bead's all the way down, coil's all the way down. Okay, and we want this coil spiral facing like this. We want to make a loop now, so we're going to grab our chain nose and we're going to put it right on the edge of the coil. Move these out of the way. And bend it forward, ready to make a loop. Okay, probably bend it a little bit more than that. Okay, and I do the same for this one. I'm going to make the coil face the spiral face the other way. What I meant is this one's wrapping this way, and the other one's wrapping this way. So we want them to be opposite. Actually, no, sorry, because we're changing the top. We want it going the same way. Tighten down the bead and the spiral. The coil. Now, because the hole in the bead was so big, the coil was going inside. We don't want it inside. Hopefully it didn't do that with the other one. I'm going to double check. Nope. Okay. Always good to check those things. Okay. So we want the spiral facing that way. Right at the edge of the coil. Put your pliers. And bend. Okay. So now take your round nose pliers and your favorite size for your loops, being consistent. We're going to make the loop for the top of the earring. Check it to make it center. It looks good. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this one, the other one, but this time instead of having the wire going here like we normally do, we're going to make it go in the back. And this side was the front of the earring with the other one. This time this is going to be the front of the earring. So we're going in the back. Check the loop. It's a little off, so I'm going to fix that. Okay, there. Okay, so the difference being, when you do that, when you have the front of your earrings facing you, is they're going in opposite directions, because we want to mirror these earrings. Okay, so the next step then is, so now you don't have to think about what direction your wire's going. It's going to guide you. That's the crucial part right there. Or you can make both earrings look exactly the same and nobody will know that it wasn't meant to be that way. So I'm going to wrap it around twice and then have it going this way again. So it's exactly the way it is now, except for 2 more wraps. Now my table is getting in my way. Okay, so that's 1. And we're going right over the coils. Make it tight. There we go, 2. Okay, so it looks like that. I'm going to straighten this wire. You saw how I did that? Just bent it with my thumb. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the other one, and this time we have to wrap twice going the opposite way. So put it back on your round nose pliers. And 1 wrap. 2. That one didn't get as bent, but I'm still going to straighten it. Okay, so the next thing, and I straighten this a bit, I'm just going to gently straighten it. The other one too. Okay. So I want you to bend it at a 45-degree angle. like that. Okay. And we're going to, I don't like that big hole. It makes the bead move. Well, this will lock it in place. We just have to make sure that we have it all the way down later on. So the next thing to do, and you know, I'm going to grab this because it'll make it easier, is we're going to bend it and we're going to try and keep it at that 45-degree angle around the coil. So you always got to check, make sure it's 45-degree angle, and it's going to make these wraps equal and consistent. And it can get tricky. Okay, now I'm pulling the bead flat, and I'm now at the bottom of the bead. Okay, it stayed pretty straight, doesn't always. And then I just straighten it with my fingers as best I can, because you really can't take the pliers to it. But you got to keep track of what's the front. Got to make sure your wires are straight, check points. Okay, so I'm squeezing that to be straight because it was bent over. Okay, looks a little crooked. Do the best you can to straighten it. If you have to use your pliers, I don't recommend using your pliers. I'm just going to peek over, see what it looks like with the naked eye. Okay, so I'm going to bend it there. Support it with your fingernails or whatever. Okay. From the other direction, do the same thing. Looks good. Okay. So the next thing I want you to do is, this is the front. We need to wrap, you need to hang on to this sturdy really tight. And we want this to the front, going perpendicular at the front. Okay, and you want your bead to be so that the big face is facing down like this. Okay, not like this, but like this, so that the corner is at its lowest point. That makes sense. Okay, and that's the front, and so I gotta make sure it's going that way. It's not quite. It's tough. It's being stubborn. Okay. See? Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the other earring. But it's going to go the opposite direction. Okay, so we're going to grab it with your pliers at the top. And pull this to a 45-degree angle and start, trying not to bend the coil. Maybe I'll just pull it around. Whichever works for you, pulling or pushing. That kind of worked better. I usually push it. Okay. And it's perfect there. So that one's done. Okay. So the next step is we're going to make a little loop right at the base going up. Okay. Like this. We gotta make sure the bead is facing the right way. And usually one side's prettier than the other, so pick your pretty side. I'm just double checking mine. Okay, I think this is the pretty side. Okay, got that. And I want to make that swirl centered. So I'm going to push it over. Okay, see how it's centered and my stem's a little bit bent, so I'm straightening it again. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing to the other one at this point. And I do recommend that you make both of them at the same time doing that step. So is that side prettier or is this side prettier? This side's prettier. Okay. And so I'm going to lift it up and loop. Okay. And I'm going to compare the size of the loops. Okay, this one's a little smaller, so I'm going to tighten this one up a little bit. I'm tugging on this, but not too hard. Okay, I'd say they're pretty close, and they're both going similar angles. This one should go down a little bit. Okay, so the next step, so you got it fit your bead facing this way. So we're going to do a loop around this corner. Just by guiding it with your finger like I am. Holding it like a pencil and almost, or paintbrush. And then I'm going behind the coil. Okay, we might want to stop at this point because we want to make sure that our little curve here is the same size before we finish it. So I'm going to do that. Okay, let's hold them next to each other. Well, that's pretty dang close, hey? Now, I see I'm going to straighten this coil up. I'm going to gently pull. Very gently. No hard squeezing. Okay. There. And now I've got it upside down. I would believe that this, okay. I'm going to go behind the coil, the spiral, and wrap it around. Coils, spirals, swirls. So many terms, and you got to know which one is which, hey? Now, so the snipping, I'm going to pull it up a little bit. I'm going to cut it with the flush cutter so the flush side's the right side. Right there. And then I'm going to cinch that up or crimp it into that wire so that there's no harsh edges anywhere. See, it's sticking up. We don't want that. We'll push it down. Still sticking up. There, that's what we want. No rough edges. That one's ready for the ear wire. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing with the other one. Oh, wrong earring. So, okay, looking good so far. So we're going to go down like this. Wrap it around. So I went behind the coil. Spiral. Snip it off. Crimp it in. And it went where it belonged right away. Now, next thing is to check your stems again. Okay, I check the lengths. I'll do it out here. And oh wow, look at that. That's good. So you know what really helps with that is the fact that you're accurate on your measurements with your coils, because that determines the length of your earring. And that's fantastic. Okay, and there they are. Ready for ear wires. Quickly put ear wires on. One. These dangle so nice because of the weight it is at the very bottom. And there they are. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter for me. And I hope to see you in the near future with the next tutorial. Talk to you later. Bye.